Hello, hello, Soul Fam. I am super excited to be here with you with another episode of this New Earth Ascension and live stream leadership series. So, this message that's coming through today will change your life if you allow it. If you really take this, and this is probably best going to be shared through and bubbling up. So I'll go ahead and share that here in a second. But first and foremost, if you're tuning in here live or on the replay, let me know in the comments. I would love to hear from you. If you're new here, my name is Sarah Rose, and I am a feminine embodiment and leadership coach to New Earth leaders, to divine feminines that are here to fully embody their divinity and share their gift and magic with the world. And the message that I wanted to bring through that's been really, that has had this is the only thing you really have to, I'm going to make a bold claim here that if you just live by this one divine law and begin to let this seep into your being, it will transform every area of your life, your health, your wealth, your family dynamics, your relationships, your business partnerships, your career, like all of it. And I know that's a bold claim, but it's true. And so what I'm going to share with you is really, really just the heart and core of why we're here in this incarnation, that is to experience and be the divine love that we are. And so I want you to really just listen with your heart, not listen with your mind. You are the embodiment of Christ consciousness. You are the infinite substance that creates all things. So when you look out into your world and you see things as separate, a good activity for today, if you're open to it, would be to begin to see beyond the world of form and see through to the substance that creates all things, the infinite substance, the infinite intelligence that creates all things, that has created you and that beats your heart and animates your being. That divine essence is the same essence that creates all things. The entire universe, all cosmic forces exist within you, and you are a manifestation of that, and so is everything and everyone else. You are one with everything that you see. And so in this story, I'll just share a story which I think is going to help explain this. So I was sharing this the other day with an Embody the Empress member. She was going through something very similar experience, but similar, I guess, realization. And this has been shown to me over and over again. I've been able, by aligning with the divine truth within me, by aligning with the infinite substance that created me, by aligning with the infinite intelligence that creates all things, and being able to embody that and surrender to that more and more and more and live it and breathe it, it has transformed all areas of my life. One example of this is I remember receiving what's it called when you're being sued, a lawsuit, I guess, in the mail for a piece of land that I acquired from my late father, which I inherited, which I really didn't care about. It was more like I tried to sell it several times as a realtor. Back in the day, I was a realtor, and I tried to sell it several times, and it was a piece, I inherited several pieces of land, and I was unable to sell it. And I moved, and the taxes were very, very low on it. So long story short, the taxes were like $35 a year or something like that. It was so low. And so I wasn't receiving the mail for it for some reason. And I think it's because they had the wrong address, and I stopped paying it. They did everything through snail mail. And I just forgot about it, to be honest, until I received a lawsuit in the mail from someone that was paying the back taxes on it and was going to acquire it, which at that point I was like, okay, well, I never really was like emotionally attached to this land to begin with. But it was also being accompanied with a pretty hefty attorney bill because I was the one in default and I was going to have to pay all of the attorney fees to go along with it. So here I was faced with this land that I didn't even really want, that I tried to sell multiple times that I couldn't sell. And then now all of a sudden someone's just going to take it, which is fine. Like, I wasn't upset about that, but now it's going to actually cost me in the process of that, all of these attorney fees and potentially affect, whatever it does to your credit and stuff like that. And so I received like this kind of, fear based legal stuff in the mail, right? It can invoke fear. And I sat with that and I reached out to a family friend who was a lawyer and got some advice. And she referred me to like a handful of other lawyers that specialized in land, and taxes and stuff like, real estate and things like that, because she had some referrals that specifically dealt with this. And they were, wanting, talking about all the ways you could fight it or what you could do, or like turning it into this big ordeal, which was only going to cost more lawyer fees and more attorney fees. So at a certain point, I was just like, well, that's going to even cost me more than what just paying the attorney fees to this investor that was wanting to acquire the land. So it didn't really make sense to like rack up more of my own attorney fees just to eventually probably have to pay their attorney fees on top of it. All of a sudden, this was getting quite hefty and getting into the 5-figure mark over this piece of land that I never really cared for to begin with. So, long story short, we reached out. I reached out to the lawyer that was representing the investor that was filed the lawsuit, and was attempting to see if they wanted to buy the land, or because from my real estate mind, I was like, well, he's an investor, he wants to buy the land. Maybe this would be easier for him to do it that way, even though it didn't make sense to any of the lawyers I talked with, because like, he's already going to acquire it from you and you're going to end up paying his attorney fees. Like, why would he ever do that? So, but I reached out to him and planted that seed anyways. And then weeks have gone by, and I got another letter in the mail that was all, you got to file this within like 5 business days, or you're going to have X, Y, and Z happen. I don't need to go into the details, but it was very time sensitive, judgments involved, things like that. It's very time sensitive. So it's all that kind of, time sensitive legal stuff happening. And I could sense that there is like this fear-based energy growing and anxiety. And then I realized, I was like, wait, I'm getting caught up in the story. I'm getting caught up in the narrative. And my family friend that was an attorney was in kind of playing liaison, not officially, but in communication with that lawyer. That's when I had planted that seed earlier that maybe he would want to buy it. But weeks had gone by, nothing materialized. And now I'm facing these deadlines that are going to affect me on a credit level or whatever within the next few days. And then so pressure was building, and there was plenty of opportunities and ways to be like fearful and things like that, especially when I'm facing, who knows how much in legal fees and this and that. And the only help I could find wanted to charge me more legal fees. So it was just, I realized, okay, wait, I'm buying into the story. I'm buying in this narrative. I am the divine creator of my experience. I created this experience. And not only did I create this experience, but I am one with the investor that's looking to acquire this land. I am one with the lawyer who's stonewalling me right now, that's not responding. I am one with all of the cooperative components that came together perfectly to give this experience. And in that moment, I brought myself back to the truth of who I was and what I've always known to be true and what has already been shown to me over and over and over again, and brought myself back to, my divine truth, and realizing that me wanting to come out of this with a potential outcome was very ego driven, and me wanting to come out of it very ahead and maybe not have to pay and him not get the land or whatever, like whatever scenario was putting me first, was very ego driven, and it was very fear based. Okay. And most people would look at this 3D experience and think, rightfully so. But being fully committed and devoted to the path that I'm on, which is fully embodying the truth and the divinity that lies within me and the infinite intelligence that creates all things, that flows to me, through me, and as me, and animates all things, including all of the cooperative components in my experience and all of the people and the situations. In that moment, I came into peace with the situation, and I surrendered. And what I surrendered to was the highest and greatest outcome for all involved. And if the highest and greatest outcome for all involved was that I lost the land and had to pay attorney fees, then so be it. Like, I surrendered the outcome and the egoic need for me to come out ahead in any way. And I literally surrendered it to the divine, to the higher power, to the creative power that flows to me, through me, and as me, and that creates all things and everyone else and everything else that I am one with. And I called back my power, and I claimed my divinity, and I surrendered to the higher infinite intelligence that is operating the whole thing and divinely orchestrating the whole thing. And I remember very clearly, because I was sitting right here in this chair in front of my laptop, getting ready to email back some kind of response to somebody that was just rooted in fear. I don't know if it was the lawyer or whatnot, trying to make sense of the next step. And when I had the moment of realization, bringing myself back, because we can tend to get sucked into the drama and the trauma and the story and the narrative where we are a victim of circumstance. And we can tend to get hooked in that. And you will get hooked in that mental hooking or fear-based hooking, like through your emotions based on your old story, until you're able to see it for what it is and completely free yourself from those chains. And so I surrendered in that moment, sitting right here in this chair in front of this very laptop, getting ready to compose an email, when I just put my hand over my heart and I said, if this is whatever's in the highest and greatest good for all involved, I'm open to receive whatever is in the highest and greatest good for all involved. And I literally wished every single person well in the situation. I dropped all animosity and all resentment to the person that's trying to acquire the land, to the lawyer that was kept mailing me this stuff, that was stonewalling me at the time, and I wouldn't respond to me, to the lawyers that I had spoken with and given me advice that was very fear-based and going to cost like thousands more dollars in order to implement, and all the things, which just felt like more resistance. It felt like more struggle. It felt like the path of resistance, not the path of least resistance. So I'm like, wait a second. I'm calling all my power back, and I'm going to align with the divine truth of who I am. And no sooner than I said that, and I really surrendered, and this is key, the need for anything to work out in any certain way. I surrendered all expectations of how it should go. I surrendered the egoic need for it to work out in my favor. And I was not in a position to where I could have just have all of these thousands of dollars of bills out of the blue. That was not favorable to Sarah at the moment. You know what I mean? That was not something that I wished for myself from a 3D perspective. But something was calling me from within to recognize the truth of reality, which was flowing to me, through me, and as me, and take back my power as the divine co-creator that I am, and surrender to the divine orchestration, to the highest and greatest good, and drop out of my ego and into my heart and surrender it all to the higher power, and know that I am the divine intelligence that has created me, that is part of me. This cosmic power that created the universe exists within me. So there's definitely power to switch the situations and to create a new timeline and to create a new reality, or to have a different outcome. But my mind wasn't even going there. It was just really resting in the truth of my being, resting in the truth of who I truly am, and the divine creative force, life force energy that I am. And no sooner did I do that. And I love when synchronicity comes in, because synchronicity comes in on our path all the time to give us, that extra to let us know that we are one. I always say that synchronicity is the language of oneness, right? You're always in the right place at the right time, seeing or rendezvousing with the synchronicities, because you are the synchronicity. Synchronicity is the language of oneness. So life always knows how to align you with life, and to align you with the cooperative components and situations that are divinely guided for your own soul expansion and growth, evolution. So you're always in the right place at the right time. Looking outside of yourself and thinking that the synchronicities are something that are outside of you is like a false truth. You are the synchronicity. You're creating this. So of course you're always going to be able to be at the right place at the right time and experience the synchronicities. And it's a mystery. It's magical, right? It's like the power of faith, the power of surrender, the power of really living the law of one, living the law of one, not conceptualizing the law of one, not saying you believe that you're one with all things, but actually in a moment of truth, when you're being tested and you have the choice to come from fear, ego, or trying to manipulate the circumstances in order to come out ahead for your own personal gain. In those silent moments, I mentioned this in another episode, it's in these silent moments between you and the divine that created you, where you will exercise faith, where you will exercise true surrender, where you will exercise true um, alignment with the divine truth that lives you and breathes you. The unseen force that's created all things, as real as the wind on your face that you can't see, but you can still feel it. It's there. It's always there. You're always there. It's all it's never left you. It is you. And so in the moment that I had that true heart surrender, where I was no longer operating from separation consciousness and egoic will, and I surrendered my egoic will to the divine will. And the divine will is always orchestrated for the highest and greatest good of all. It's never orchestrated for the personal agenda of the separate self that thinks it needs something in order to get ahead or one up something or carve something out for itself. It's never self-serving. It's always for the highest and greatest good of all involved. All animosity, all fear, all resentment dropped. My being was in peace with whatever outcome unfolded. And I was completely present in that moment. And in that moment, which is why I love the synchronicities of life that are always there to remind us that we are one with the love of God, and that we are always supported because we are a child of God. We are not separate from God. We are the divine creator that lives within us. True self, the divine self that is us, that's your true identity. And in that moment, I got a text message in the very same moment, like literally, like it was simultaneously happening, right? So in the moment, I dropped in and released all resistance and fully anchored in heart-centeredness and heart-centered consciousness. I received a text message right away from my family friend who was kind of playing liaison with that attorney that was ghosting me. And he had a $7,000 offer, which all of the other attorneys I talked to were like, why would he do that? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Like, why would he do that? Like, he already can acquire it and you pay his attorney fees. And I was like, well, I was just called to offer it. I know he's an investor. Like, I was called to offer this. And so despite the fact that it didn't make logical sense, despite the fact that all of the experts and all of the legal people told me that it was just a crapshoot and it didn't make any sense, you know, and that was offered weeks ago, completely no communication, just more letters in the mail with the tension building and no solution. So it was just more anxiety and fear building, or like, what's going to happen? You know what I mean? Like ghosting and all of those things. In the moment that I dropped into my heart and really truly came from true heart-centered consciousness and realized the oneness and connectedness of all things, and realized, I'll touch on this in a second, I'm going somewhere else. I got to finish this thought. That's when I received the text message and received a $7,000 offer. So what started out as going to be a few $1,000 bill or invoice that I was about to receive from a legal firm and losing the land, I was able to sell the land, of which I was trying to sell for years prior and not able to. And just for the record, I was trying to sell it for much less. It was just like one vacant lot. I was trying to sell it for like half, back in the day. It was just like a $3,500 lot for sale in the middle of nowhere. And I wasn't able to sell it. So not only did I get an offer, not only did it completely flip the script, and all of a sudden I went from potentially having to pay attorney fees and lose the land to being able to sell the land that I was never able to sell successfully before, to getting an offer that was like twice the price for this vacant land in the middle of nowhere that I didn't want, this vacant lot. So everything worked out to the highest and greatest good for all involved. I'm sure that maybe even the land appreciated and I wasn't even aware of it. So he was getting a deal and I was also getting a deal. And was I concerned on whether or not I was getting enough for it or not, or this or that? No, I was surrendered to the highest and greatest good for all involved. But this message that wanted to come through is so, so key, because this fully embodied will change your life in all areas. When you realize and fully embody the truth of who you truly are, and you see and recognize it in all things. This is the key. This is the other thought that was coming through. So now I'm going to allow myself to go down that rabbit hole and follow this thread. It's being able to see the oneness and divinity in all things, simultaneously seeing it in yourself. And you're not going to be able to see it in others until you do recognize it in yourself, because it's natural to project what it is that you see out onto others. This is why coming home to yourself and no longer looking externally out in the world of form for things to reflect back to you what you feel you think you need in order to feel lovable, good enough, worthy, is never going to work. It's all about coming home to the truth of who you are. And when you can fully come home and embody the truth of who you are, your divinity, the infinite source of abundance and wealth and aliveness that animates your being and animates all things, you become one with, you already are one, but now you're living in alignment with it, so to speak. Now you're living the oneness. You're breathing the oneness. You're no longer in resistance, in separation, fighting against the world and the situations that we create for ourselves, for our own growth and expansion. So there's no problem with any of it. There's no judgment about any of it. It's all opportunities for growth. It's all opportunity for us to be able to see with true spiritual vision what is really happening, and to be able to identify within ourselves, where are we living from fear-based consciousness? Where are we choosing self-servedness over the highest and greatest good for all involved? Where are we seeing ourselves as being more important than our brother or our sister, right? Our brother and sister in God. We are children of God. There is one child of God, and it is the true self, which is having 8 billion different experiences, but we are one at our core. And when we're able to see the divinity within ourselves, we're able to see the divinity in others, even if they are doing things in our experience that are unfavorable, even if they're doing things that we would never prefer, right? We can't control the way another individual expression is responding to the divinity that exists within. Some are very, very much rejecting it. And if they're very much rejecting their own divinity, they're going to reject the divinity in others. And so that's not our concern. Our concern is to see the divinity within ourselves and see the divinity within others, right? It's one thing to say it. It's one thing to say namaste, and it's another thing to live it, where you recognize the light in you and the light in others, and let that be your way of life. And it will challenge the ego, and you will be put in situations and circumstances by life, by the divine, by yourself, right? By the true you, in order to experience this firsthand, so you can live fully embodied and self-actualized in your divinity. And when you fully are able to live self actualized, fully in your divinity, you are able to transform your life on all levels. So I hope this is resonating. Another story I wanted to share really quick is through a health crisis, because just illustrates again the power that we all have as we embody the divinity that exists within us. You have the power to create your life through true co-creative reverence with the divine that flows through you. So this was several years ago, probably like 15 years ago now or something like that. I was going through a health crisis where I completely ruined my gut health, and I was completely sick all the time, getting flu after flu after flu, until I landed myself with pneumonia in the ER because I didn't have any, healthy immune system. And I was going from naturopath to naturopath for like 4 years straight, spending thousands of dollars on naturopathic doctors and holistic remedies and stuff like that, until I spoke with my the gut health doctor that taught at the college next to me. And she was giving me natural prescriptions and things like that to help me control or deal with what was happening. And I had it all. I had leaky gut, I had food allergies, I had like IBS, I had all these things, and I was determined to heal it naturally, because if you know anything about those symptoms, they often prescribe antidepressants for like IBS and stuff like that. So I was so sick, I couldn't even go to parties or anything like that because I didn't want to eat food around anybody. I was always the sick girl at the party. I was always the sick girl at Christmas or Thanksgiving. I was always the one that couldn't eat certain things. And even now, I mean, now it's completely different. I eat whatever I want, but I'm a healthy eater, right? So I cleaned up my diet. I still just choose not to eat certain things, but now it's just a choice. Before it was like a requirement because I was allergic to everything that I was eating because of leaky gut syndrome and stuff like that. So long story short, we don't need to go into the whole health rabbit hole. The naturopathic doctor said one thing to me. She said, you need to change your lifestyle. And I took that to heart, and I went home, and she had all of these different prescriptions and things like that she wanted me to be taking. And instead, I was just really called to go inward and realize that I was just no longer going to see myself or refer to myself as the one that's always dealing with health issues or the one that's always sick. Every time I went to a lunch or a family party or something like that, or a work party or whatever, I was always the one. And there was always going to be a story or a narrative related to it about, and everybody could give me their, pity party about like, God, that sucks. You can't eat this and blah, blah, blah. And it was just always a story and a narrative around it. And I didn't want the story and the narrative around it. I said, I'm just going to claim my health. I'm just going to claim wellness. I'm just going to see myself as rejuvenating every single cell in my body, including every single cell on my intestinal wall. And I landed on one video at that time that right at that moment of reclaiming my power, and a video on YouTube or something popped up that said, did you know that your intestinal wall like rejuvenates every like 21 days or something like that? Like every 21 days you grow like in a new intestine or whatever. And I was like, well, there you go. You know what I mean? That's like 21 days. I'm just going to remove all of the negativity. I'm going to remove the story and the narrative. I'm no longer going to be the healthiest sick girl everybody's seen, because I'm the one that's always eating carrots and was, vegan at the time and all of these things. But yet I was always having all the health issues. So I'm just going to remove all the negative inputs. I'm going to claim back my power. I have healing energy pumping through my body. My body is always rejuvenating. My cells are always, I'm forming new cells. Like old cells are dying, new cells are growing. Like I'm literally growing new organs within weeks. I'm growing new tissues within weeks. I'm rejuvenating within weeks, and so the only thing that was going to keep me from actually rejuvenating and growing new healthy cells and a new healthy intestinal system and all things was hanging on to any negative inputs. So I removed the negative inputs mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I told a new story to myself, which is I am well. I am well. I am well. And I started to see myself as well. I saw myself as this as the life force energy that was flowing through me creates all things that could definitely create a new intestine, right? Or a new intestinal tract or wall or new cells. It's the same life force energy that's creating the world. So why wouldn't it be able to help me create, a healthier gut system and all of that? It made no sense to not think that. To be honest, it made zero sense to think that it could not do that. Like that I could not do that as I am one with the life force energy that creates everything. Like that was like insane to think that, of course, of course, life force energy is flowing through me. Of course, it's creating new cells. Of course, it's healing my body naturally. We heal when we sleep. We heal when we eat healthy foods and things like that. So I removed any negatives on the emotional, mental, and physical level. I was eating healthy foods. I was saying healthy thoughts to myself. I was seeing myself as already well. I completely rejected the story of disease. I completely rejected the story of illness. It just was no longer an option for me to buy into that story. And I completely flipped the script on it and started to tell a new story. And it was really interesting because the funny thing about this is I was supposed to go for a checkup. I didn't take any of the supplements, and I'm not saying that the supplements couldn't help. At some point, previous to that, I took supplements that did help, but I was just so on a roll with really fully embodying wellness that I didn't feel I needed anything else. And I started to see improvements in my energy and my vibe and like my digestion and everything pretty quickly. But I was supposed to go for a checkup 6 months later. And when I went to get a checkup, I just knew. She always gave me this breath test to like monitor like the digestive system, because your digestive system is filled with like certain like the bugs, you know what I mean? Like gut flora and things like that. And so she could give me a test to see like where my gut flora was. And it was a mess before. And I went back 6 months later. What I did was a lot of mindfulness and a lot of meditation, reducing my stress levels because I was at peace. I was more calm. I was eliminating the negatives, remember, mentally, emotionally, physically, and allowing my body to do the healing work that it already innately knows how to do. I mean, when I saw that video about the intestinal tract, I was like, well, that's it. I mean, when I cut myself, my body naturally knows how to heal. It goes to work and it does this amazing thing where it heals the cut on your finger, for example, very, very, it knows exactly how to do it intuitively. You don't have to figure this out. That's the same infinite intelligence that's pumping through your veins, that's growing the flowers and the trees across the street or out your window or in your house or whatever. It's the same infinite intelligence that pumps through you constantly, that you are able to co-creatively, uh, I don't want to use the word control, but consciously co-create with in the now. So this isn't a story of being well in the future. It's not a story of like rejecting even not being well. It's just in the present moment where all of our power resides. I am well. I am well. That was my new story, but it wasn't even a story because it was just my present moment experience of being well. And I rejected any narrative or even communicating with people that were seeing me as the sick girl because I had conditioned them to see me that way. I'd conditioned them to see me that way, and I was no longer going to allow myself to be subject to those conversations where those victimized conversations were part of the conversation anymore. So when someone asked me, how are you doing? For example, when I was in a social environment, I would say, I'm doing great. I'm getting better every single day. I feel amazing. Every single day gets better and better. And my gut is feeling better and better, which was true. Every single day was getting better and better. And the more I told that story, the more that was my reality. So 6 months later, long story short, I go to, maybe it's not the long story short, maybe it's a long story, but who knows? I go back to the naturopath, and she gives me a test, And I just knew it was gonna be amazing. I didn't know anything else. I was like, "God, what if she like, the thought, creeped in for a second, like, what if she gives me some, like, negative review or something and tells me everything's shit? And I was like, "No, that's not even possible because I know how I feel, and that's, like, it doesn't even matter." So I showed up, she did the test, I came back to get the results of the test, and she was floored because she said, "Your gut flora balance, your gut health looks like an A plus." Like, she said she'd never seen it better. Like, she said she's gonna use the snapshot of my gut flora, balance in my gut as a case study with her students at the college that she was at, because she was the head of gastrointestinal wellness or whatever, and she taught at the school, and she was going to use, my results as a case study to show what can happen when you go from this to this. It was it was like a flip side, it was like polar opposites, like total gut destroyed, like just like no immunity, I was constantly getting sick. Uh and to what an A plus, like what you would strive for, A plus plus for like a client. The interesting thing was is that I told her I didn't do any protocols other than take her advice to change my life and change my lifestyle, and that's what I did. And so that was that experience where even like the supplements and stuff I didn't take, I we don't need to all it was me changing my lifestyle and my experience, and my I knew what it was my perception of how I was operating in the world and how I was viewing myself and what I was projecting. And I switched that and did a complete 180 on it and flipped the script. But it was more than that. It was fully embodying the truth, which is we are that there is infinite intelligence, infinite healing intelligence, infinite abundance, infinite wealth, like pumping through our veins. We are the same substance that creates all of that. And so when you start to believe that you are not separate from anything and you are not separate from the version of you that is already well, it's just a matter of consciously coming into union with that, then you're able to shift all different areas of your life. It can't not, because you're fully embodying your divinity. You're fully embodying the love and the abundance and the health and the wealth that you are. And then that's what emanates and goes out and creates this 3D experience. So, as within, so without. And she couldn't have given me better advice. And I took it literally and I changed my life, but I changed my perception of of who I was and how things really. I took my co-creative power back. I took back the life force energy that flows through me, and I took back my natural innate healing abilities. So two different stories, one with health, one with finances, but both fall under the same um, premise, which is you are the divine creator, and you get to co-create your reality. And spoiler alert, if you're on this journey, you're here to embody the oneness that you are, the love that you are, the abundance that you are, the wealth that you are. You are not separate from the clients you're calling in, from the wealth you're calling in, from the abundance of health, from the abundance of joy, from the abundance of prosperity, in whatever form that takes for you. You are not separate from the divine love and counterpart even that you're calling in. You are one with all of it. And so this alone, embodying this truth, will shift everything in your life if you allow it, if you're open to it, if you're willing to live it and breathe it and walk it, if you're willing to allow the infinite intelligence to flow to you and through you and as you. Nothing is impossible. You are unstoppable when you team up with the life force, cosmic power that's created all things, that exists and dwells within you. That is how powerful you are. You are one with that. That is mind boggling. You can't wrap your head around it. The separate self will never understand this. The separate self sees you as as has a separate sense of self, this separate identity that's out there in the world trying to figure things out and trying to preserve its best possible scenario and trying to navigate this 3D world, seeing it as separate and seeing everyone else as separate. And it comes from a very victim consciousness, which is fear-based consciousness. If you're on this path, you're here to embody your divinity. You're here to move from egoic, fear-based separation consciousness into fully embodying heart-centered unity consciousness, oneness with all things. And it starts here. It starts right here, right now, right here. It doesn't happen in the future. It's not something you have to, getting caught in the story and the narrative is a trap. It's a trap. It's an egoic trap that's going to keep you stuck ruminating in the past or projecting into the future and, jumping through hoops to try to figure out like whatever is your highest divine aligned path for you. So whether you're co-creating or birthing your, like a new project or a new relationship or a new level of health or wellness or wealth or financials or living situation or living your environment, like this pertains to all situations in all circumstances with all people in all ways. This is about coming home to the eternal presence and life force energy, the infinite intelligence that beats your heart. When you're able to live from this and not question it and not doubt it and reject all narratives and stories that pop up that tell you otherwise, really reject them as untruth and come home to the truth of who you are, that you are a divinely created, powerful expression of the one, of God, of the universe, of infinity, whatever you want to call it. When you fully are able to, embrace that and no longer doubt it, that's when you're able to move through life with a sense of peace and a sense, feeling at peace in your heart. And you will be magnetic to the things that are of your highest calling and that are in alignment with your soul core desires and that are naturally aligning you with your dharma, because your soul contract, if you're resonating with this, is to come into alignment with the truth of who you are and allow that to live you and breathe you and walk you and talk you, if that makes sense. You are here to be a divine channel of love, embodied, anchored into the 3D reality, being the anchor of love for humanity. Humanity ascends and rises into this mass ascension that's happening, which we are just at the very tip of and will be going on for centuries. So buckle up and get ready, because this is just the very beginning and you are being called to fully embody this and anchor this love. If you resonate with the divine feminine path, if you've met your twin flame, if you resonate as a light worker, starseed, or an empath, and you are a natural teacher, way shower, a guide for others, activator for others, this message is for you. This is no accident. You can only lead from the level you have met yourself. And right now, New Earth is calling for divine feminine leadership. Divine feminine leadership means that you are anchored and embodied in your divinity. You're fully embodied in your divinity, fully human, not rejecting your humanity, and also fully divine, walking, talking divinity in human form. This is divine feminine leadership. There is no room for self-doubt as to how powerful you are as a co-creator and as a child of God. You are one with the creator. This is your God essence, goddess, God essence within. Aligning with this is how you will be able to lead New Earth. You cannot lead New Earth from fear-based consciousness. You cannot lead New Earth from self-doubt. You cannot lead New Earth from manipulation or personal egoic will or self-servedness. You surrender your personal will on this journey to the divine will that's orchestrating all things. And in this faith and in this surrender and in this trust in the truth of who you truly are, which is one with all things, you are divinely guided, protected, compensated in order to fulfill your dharma and your mission here. So I hope this message finds you well, and it was a lot of fun to bring through. This literally will change all areas of your life if you allow it, if you're open to it. And I know if you're listening to this, you are, or you wouldn't be here right now. You definitely wouldn't be listening to a 45-minute live stream on this if you're tuned in to this for any length of time. You would have already clicked off on this. So I'm speaking to those that are here to lead from their sacred femininity, from their divine feminine essence, from the part of them that knows, from their creative life force energy, their divine creative flow, the divine creatrix within, which is a whole previous episode if you want to look for that title. This is New Earth Leadership, and this is part of what you've contracted to do, is to anchor this divine wisdom, the ancient wisdom, and bring it forth into fully actualizing it, living it, embodying it, and sharing it through your own divine expression, whatever that looks like for you. And this is how you lead a new earth, fully embodying this and rejecting any story or narrative that keeps you rooted in the separate, false sense of self that is fear-based. This doesn't mean you're not going to have an ego on this journey. You're going to have an ego as long as you're here in human form, but the ego is not the enemy. The ego is also what helps you have an individual expression, right? It's only when the ego is kind of hijacked by fear that it becomes an issue. The egoic mind I'm referring to, when it gets hijacked from fear. Once you fully are anchored in heart-centeredness and you've surrendered your personal will to the divine will through life experience, reflecting back to you over and over again how well you are supported when you fully surrender to this, then the mind gets on board and is a useful tool for this journey, and is a useful tool for your divine expression, for your authentic expression that is unique to you. So this isn't the journey of sameness, this is the journey of oneness. But within this oneness, we are all expressing individually, and ego plays a role in that. Ego is not the enemy, the egoic mind. It's when the egoic mind is running the show, driving the car, so to speak, and rooted in fear-based consciousness. When the heart takes over, when the soul takes over, and you are living and walking and talking as your higher self, connected to the divine in all ways, the egoic mind is still going to be there. And the mind is a useful tool, but it takes a back seat. The heart, the soul is in the driver's seat now. And it's a whole new timeline, a whole new path, a whole new alignment. And it shifts everything in your world, bit by bit, piece by piece. Every area of your life will be transformed. And you don't have to take my word for it. You can practice this in the moment right now, because this is the only place you'll ever experience it, is right now, in those quiet moments when it's just you and you and God, you and you. In those quiet moments when you fully surrender to the truth of who you are, and you no longer buy into the stories, narratives, programs, conditioning, or old traumas and dramas that tell you otherwise, and you reject with a sense of devotion to who you truly are, and that you will not accept a limited false sense of self that tells you you are not good enough, or you are not worthy, or you do not deserve health, wealth, abundance, love in this lifetime. You get to have it all when you fully embody it all and you become one with it all. So this is not the journey of the separate self trying to grasp and reach for things outside of itself in order to have a better life for the individual sense of self that you think that you are 90% of the time. And that may not be for everybody, but that's not what this is about. This is about fully walking and talking as the embodied version of you, the divinely embodied version of you, the one that knows you are, that you are one, that you are it, that you are life, that you are this. And it's all expressing through you and as you. and that there's nothing that you need to fear. There's nothing that you need to run from. There's nothing that you need to hide from. There's nothing that you need to safeguard your sense of self against. There will be healthy discernment. So let me just say this before I get a bunch of comments. This doesn't mean that you become a cosmic doormat for everybody and you just are complacent. You allow whatever to come into your experience. No, you actually become more and more wise and rooted discernment. You know what feels like alignment and what's coming from love, and you can feel what's coming from a false, from an untruth, from a fear-based business, and you gladly, happily, and healthily remove yourself from circumstances, situations, people, places, or environments that are not rooted in love. You have a healthy level of discernment. So you're not a doormat. You actually have a deep level of self-reverence and respect for your personhood and for this beautiful body that you got to incarnate in, that is allowing you to have this beautiful experience. Your soul is having this experience. The divine is looking through your eyes right now, having this experience through your individual vessel. The divine is breathing you, looking through you. It is the awareness that's behind it always. That's always been there with you through every circumstance. Even when I go back in time, which is an illusion anyways, because you can't really go back. It's just now. But when I have the memory of going back, for example, when I was going through that health crisis, or when I was going through that situation with the land, there was always the awareness there. The awareness, the presence was always there. It's like the backdrop of all things. And on the world, on this cosmic stage, this 3D reality, there was things happening. There was situations occurring. There was distress. There was health issues. There's all of these things. There were these things playing out. There was this person playing out. And at the time back then, I was still ebbing and flowing a lot more than present day into playing with the toggling between victim consciousness and separation consciousness and unity consciousness. So there was this dabbling that was going through, and that was being played out through these life experiences as part of my own soul path growth and ascension journey. But behind it all was the awareness of it all, lovingly allowing it all to play out. Even when I was at the depths of my despair, my presence, the love that was always there, my presence, my awareness was always there, allowing this and holding space for me to come home to myself. This is probably where I'm going to end this. It feels complete, and I really appreciate everyone who tunes into these and gives their love in the comments. And even if you never comment and you receive a piece of this that resonates with you, that's beautiful as well. I do like to end with a word, though, and the word is also something that initiates movement and momentum in your life experience, because if you fully claim it intentionally, it's very subtle, guys. It's like very subtle, just like that story that I shared. It was a subtle intention in the moment that caused massive shifts. This isn't like you have to go out and do big things to come into alignment with who you truly are. You already are who you truly are. And when you set the subtle intention to come home to yourself and to live the truth of who you truly are and to embody your divinity, then life begins to recalibrate that for you in your experience so that you can do just that. And so when you do drop the word in the caption, do it fully knowing and accepting with conviction that you are here, that you are here for it. You are here for the journey. You are here for the ascension. You're here for the love. You're here for the growth. You're here for the expansion. You're here for the mission that you came for. You're here for the impact that you came for. You're here for life the way it is and the way it's showing up for you as a beautiful journey that you get to experience temporarily as this soul incarnated here, that you're here for all of it. You're not here to reject life in any way. You're here to embrace it, and you're here to learn and grow and ascend through things. And you're here to fully embody the love that you are. It all comes back. All roads eventually come back to you. All roads point home, and you're here for it. So claim that if you feel called when you do drop the word in the comments, because that will make all the difference. And do it with a sense of intention and a sense of being willing to reject, moving forward, everything in your life that is not rooted in divine truth. Anything in your life that tells you or reflects back to you that you are a victim, or that you are not worthy, or that you are not lovable, or that you are not good enough, or that you are not powerful. These are all lies. You are a powerful being. You are a child of God. You are an expression of divinity. You couldn't be more powerful. It's just about coming home to yourself and knowing that at your core. So the word here, if you're open for it, is go ahead and drop it in. What's the word going to be? Cosmic power. You fully coming home to the cosmic power that lies within you, the life force energy that lies within you. So we're going to call it cosmic power. So drop cosmic power in the comments if you're here with me live or on the replay and you're ready to claim the cosmic power within that creates all worlds and that animates your life and all things, and really, 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 really step on to the path of full embodiment and self-actualizing your divinity. So I hope this message finds you well. It just clicked 55. So big changes coming in for everyone that is here for it and ready for it, and fully claiming and owning the power that lies within them. This is what leads New Earth. So I hope this finds you well. And until next time, namaste.